Today I'm going to show you how to build dashboards in Excel with a very straightforward technique. I use this approach on almost every single project that I worked on during my time in consulting at McKinsey. The dashboards that I created this way not only were super straightforward to create, and I will show you in this video how exactly you can create it in only 15 minutes or so, but they also regularly impressed both clients and also other team members because they're usually pretty cool, super helpful, super straightforward. So welcome to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning. Help yourself to a coffee. My name is Heinrich, and on my channel Firm Learning I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. I'm a former McKinsey consultant. I spent about 6 years with the firm, and for sure Excel was one of the tools I used most. And I'm very excited to teach you about some of the skills that I found most useful during my professional life. If you're interested in this type of content, check out my channel because I already did several other videos on Excel tips and tricks like this. And if you're actually interested to play around with the dashboard that I created yourself, if you maybe just want to use it to code along, try it out for yourself, train a bit, maybe also see how exactly I did something if maybe you couldn't follow a specific part of the video. I'm offering this very dashboard that I'm creating here with you today for free as a download. If you're interested in that, check out the link in the video description to download this dashboard for you and then try it out and play around with it. I now would like you to introduce you to the sponsor of this video, DataCamp. DataCamp is an online learning platform where you can improve your data analysis skills. And you know that this is something I talk about all the time. This is really a crucial part of your skill set if you want to succeed in any consulting role, and I trust in many roles in industry and for sure in banking as well. With DataCamp, there are no previous data skills needed to get started. You can learn from things as basic as Excel 101 to more advanced technical things like, for instance, database manipulation in SQL. So for sure, if the things that I show you here in this video are over your head, you really have no idea what this is all about, there are some also very introductory courses on Excel and DataCamp which I trust can help you. They have over 300 courses with interactive learning, and you can also learn on the go with the mobile app that they have. Personally, I very much liked the Introduction to SQL course, which already helped me several times on my own projects when I needed to interact with databases. So give it a try, and I trust that working with DataCamp indeed can fast track your data analysis skills, and these for sure are so crucial in any consulting role, but also many other related roles as well. So if this now piqued your interest and you would like to try out DataCamp, then invest in yourself. Use my link to DataCamp in the video description and try out the first chapter of every course for free. So let's start by looking into what we want to build in the end. And I now put this here into the reference sheet. This is pretty much what we want to build. And you see here a pretty basic dashboard. Of course, this now does not look overly complex, so I did not want it to make the video too long. But the key thing is that if you understand how this works, you can pretty easily expand into much more complex, extensive dashboards. Then of course it's also not really difficult to then just add some additional charts in there as well. And the key idea is that this could, for instance, be a retail store. And then there at the store selection, there's a drop down where you can select different stores and then all the numbers update accordingly. I believe it's just due to my screen recording that you cannot see the overlay of the drop down. But if you then download the file, then you will see just a normal drop down that appears without all the stores. So this is it. Again, pretty straightforward. But this type of drop down based modeling, this type of drop-down based dashboards, this is really important, and I build this so frequently in consulting. It's just extremely helpful. But let's get started and let's try to just build this here together. So I created here an empty sheet, and now I'm starting to format it. I always like to create these little edges at the end. I believe it always looks a little bit cleaner instead of just starting out from the beginning. So I'm just looking back at the reference sheet to see how exactly it's supposed to be set up. So just to copy the text and so on. So dashboard for the sales performance. So in this example, the different items that you select in the drop down are different stores. But of course, this could easily be a company where you then look at different product lines, so different geographies, different business units, right? So all of these things could be easily built with such a dashboard. And trust me, this would be really helpful, really insightful to many companies. Now here I'm just creating the front end, right? I always believe it's helpful to start to create the front end to start to create the things that then are supposed to come out in the end, and this often helps you, at least me, later to then fill it. And now the fields that then later should contain dynamic content, I already highlight them with a border in order now for me later then to make it more clear what is expected. Now I copy this border from top to bottom. I often believe it is easiest if you directly copy it so that it has exactly the same height. This always makes it look a little bit cleaner. And now I am coloring it just to create this little head area, and now I'm freezing it so that I can scroll. Now, especially if now the dashboard would be a little bit bigger, a bit more extensive, then it might be helpful to really fix this header segment over there so that you can then still scroll down and still see the header. Now again, copying the elements, revenues and margins, just typing here the text, nothing fancy happening here for the moment. So this is the revenues and margins section. We have the current trading, so the current net revenues, and then also the profit, as well as the margin that is created. Okay, so next is then that we also want to expand this a little bit, just that it looks a bit more like the original example in the reference sheet. Now we are bolding this. So far, so good. And now let's create just a little line below just to show that this is kind of a subheader, the revenues and margins subheader for this section of the dashboard. Okay, this looks good to me. And now I'm continuing to build the front end by again putting borders around these fields that then later will be filled with numbers. And this is actually in this example a dashboard where we have the data from January to end of November. So let's assume, for instance, you would be in December of 2020, so December of last year. And now we would build a dashboard that goes from January to November. And then this is now the data that is captured here, as also shown in the last updated timestamp field. Now we have the cumulative data, so from January to November. And then in this dashboard example, it shows the last 5 months, right? So July, August, September, October, November. This is of course arbitrary. Now I can see that I need to shift in the column K this little bit around so that this matches the example. And now here I just copy it from above. Now I'm adjusting the column widths, right? So I'm making all of these of the same width. I think this is now the width size 15. So this makes it look a little bit cleaner. Now again, I'm making these distances a little bit smaller, copying it over there so that I'm sure that I'm getting the exact same distance here. And next I am now further cleaning it up, but let's see what I put next. Exactly, this can be a little bit bigger as well. Let's also put this to 15. This now looks a little bit better, I'd say. And now we are continuing to build the lower section, so performance comparison. Here again, then the historical development. So this is now the section where we want to compare the current performance to how the performance looked like in the last years. So here we have again the gross revenue, we have the profit as well, and we also have the margin. All right, so far so good. And now here what we want to have is now for the years 2015 to 2019, so for the last 5 years. So now assuming currently we are in 2020, that then we see the change. And now here we're putting the year information so that we have this well covered as well. So what I like to do now is to adjust these grid lines so that the grid lines are not appearing anymore. So this, I believe, always gives a much cleaner look. So I can very much recommend this just for this nice clean look that we want. And now let's start looking into the different data inputs. So here we have the stores tab. So here you see these 10 stores. So let's just assume this retail store has 10 stores around the world. You see a store ID, store name, the city, and the type of store. So apparently we have here flagship and boutique. So only these two types. Then we go to the next tab. This is the revenue 2020 tab. So this is month to date, right? So it contains all the months until now. So in this example, it has the data from January to November. So you see per store the different monthly data. What's important to understand is that this is data that can easily come out of any business intelligence system. This is just a flat table with all the data. Pretty much any information system that businesses have can give you such an output. And this is what you're always looking for. You're looking for these clean tables that you can then use. And then also later, if you can update it, just copy in the new report, copy it into here. and then pretty much the whole dashboard updates automatically, right? This is pretty much the goal, and this is what then will be achieved by setting it up in such a way that is also shown here. Right here you have the different months. Again, this ends at November, and then you have the net revenue and the COGS, the cost of goods sold. So the cost, and here now in the history tab, we have the years 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Again, flat table format. This will come out of every business intelligence BI system that you have, and then you can use the data for the dashboard. So far, so good. So let's build it. Let's get practical. Let's see how exactly this is done. So let's start by creating the drop down for the store selection. So the drop down for this field. And here again, I think it doesn't show you the overlays, but you need to click on data, and then in the data menu on data validation. And then the menu that pops up, you click then the list type, and then you can select from kind of a list of cells that you should use as an input for the drop down. And of course, these input cells should be the store names. So you now highlight these store names, and then you press OK. And then these are exactly all the names that then appear in the drop down. Again, unfortunately, you cannot see it here, but here you can select one of these. So you see now that I clicked in the drop down these different names. Now I will center it and also color it white, because I believe it looks a little bit cleaner this way. And now here, this would, for instance, be the drop down for, I believe this is the LA store. But now to get exactly this done, let's first start by now also putting the store ID, because maybe some employees are more used to working with the store ID, the number, instead of just the name. So we will do exactly that. We will pull that based on a lookup function. And we will now start actually using VLOOKUP for that. And I know that I told you shouldn't use VLOOKUP in a prior video of mine. So check that out for the whole argument. I will use VLOOKUP now because I believe this is a function that will be a bit more well known to most of you. It's pretty much just a lookup function. If you want to know what this is all about, check out the video I made on this. I will link it somewhere above here so that you can have the full picture. And the idea now is that he pretty much picks the name, so the LA as it was in example before. And then you need to select the table array. And then he looks into here now in this example with the column B, he looks for the name. And then he looks, in this example, if you put the 2 for the second column to the right, to then return you the ID. And indeed now for LA, it returns the store ID number 4. And indeed, if you look at it, LA, it had the number 4 next to it. So pretty much looks, okay, where is LA? What is next to it? And this is the number that you get. And you can see now if you toggle between all the different stores in the drop down, then now suddenly you have the store number that is changed accordingly. So let's now indeed also fill here the city, because now of course you want that based on the selection, the city gets shown in the correct way as well. So again, we use the VLOOKUP. We take the store name, or actually now you could also use the store ID because we have it here as well. You highlight it, and now for the city, it is the third column. You always start by the first column of the selection in the VLOOKUP formula to then count, and then that's the third. And then we can just copy it over and use the number 4 to give us the type as well. And New York was, as you have seen in the table before, a flagship store indeed. So hope this makes sense. Check it here, flagship store, New York. This is what it is, guys. So now we build this here as well. We can, again, it looks in the first column, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4. So the flagship is now in the column 4. So this is why then there's the number 4, again, just basis of VLOOKUP. And you see now that if you toggle the store selection, then on the right, the inputs will change as well. So let's now continue to fill these fields. And we will start now with the cumulative value, so the value for January to November. And we will do all of this with the SUMIF formula. So again, if you want to know how SUMIF exactly works, check out the video I did on that, because I already covered this extensively. I will link it above here. But pretty much the idea is that with SUMIF, you can mark a column where you want to sum the values from. But then you can define conditions so that these values only get summed up if certain conditions are met. And here, of course, first of all, we want to start with the store, right? Because we only want to sum the values that are from the store that is currently selected. So here now we need to highlight that he only sums the values that in the column A of the revenue tab has the same value as here in the store selection. And if we do that now, he gives us this crazy number here. Now, of course, it is not formatted properly, so I will just format it in the accounting format. The accounting format usually is my go-to to do this. Again, I just opened the formatting menu here just to format it with the accounting format. And now with copying of the format, I pretty much copy this format to these other cells. And now to get the month value, we need to pretty much just copy it over, this whole SUMIF formula that we just had, and we need to extend it. We need to define another restricting condition, because now we want to restrict it not only to the store, but also to the month. So we want to only sum the values that had the store as New York, or as the value that we put, but also that have as a monthly value only the month that is selected. And thankfully enough, now I already had the column with the month names, so I can directly select July. I need to log in the rows, but can freely then change the columns. And this way, if I copy it over, you can see it directly tracked the columns correctly. It fixed the row, and now we have the monthly values. Looks good so far. So now we continue here with the gross profit. And as you know, profit is revenue minus cost. Revenue minus cost. So what we need to do is we need to take the revenue, which you already have above, and then we need to subtract the cost from it, right? So let's start by pulling the cost here. So to do that, we take the formula. You see that he is summing up currently the column E. In the revenue tab, the column E. But of course, the column E was the revenues. So now we need to, instead of the revenues, sum up the cost, of course, with the same conditions. So if we go back, we see that revenues again are in column E, but now we want to sum the values in the column F. So again, so we copy in the exact same formula, and we just change the column input from E to F. In this way now it gives us the cost. But again, we want the profit, so we need to take the revenues, which we have already calculated above there, and then we deduct the cost, and then it gives us the profit. So the revenue that we have above minus the cost, this is what will give us the profit. Now, same thing is true here for the monthly figures. We copy in the formula for the revenue, we replace the E with an F because this is what will give us the cost. And then we take the revenues from above, we subtract these costs to then get the values, and then because we've set it up correctly with all the fixed formulas, etc., we can just copy it over. And for the margin, we just take the percentage and calculate it here. Of course, this is now to be formatted as a percentage figure. And then we have pretty much the gross margin that we are calculating here. So again, basic high school math. I hope you can follow along. Hope this is not too complicated. Alright, I'm just copying the format of the percentage formatting below to the margin line as well. And now you can see that if you just toggle around the stores, all of this gets adjusted accordingly. So next, historical development. Again, the values from the different years. Again, we can also do this with SUMIFs. SUMIF is always super helpful with these things. I just love SUMIFs. I pretty much use it all the time because it's so versatile. You can use it for all kinds of different things. So often I just also abuse SUMIFs pretty much just as a lookup. But I pretty much use it for everything, right? And what we need to do here is that we just take SUMIFs. Now, indeed, we need to pull the yearly figures for 2015, right? For 2015, for this specific store, of course. So again, we set up the SUMIFs formula, and to do this accordingly, now we need to go into this history tab, and then we select the gross revenue column here. This is now where we want to sum the values from. Then we select the conditions. So here the year column. And then we again tell him that he only needs to sum the values that have a year 2015 in this example in the year column. And then we fix the lines, and then we can just copy it over. Okay, so hope this makes sense. But now actually I noticed that I forgot something, because of course I should not only restrict it by the years, but I also need to restrict it by the stores, because otherwise he's giving me the sum of all the store figures, but I only want the sum of the lines where then he has the specific store that I selected, right? Which is why I now introduce the second condition into the SUMIF formula, namely the condition of the stores. So the next one is the cost. Here again, revenue was in column E, the cost was in column F. So you know the drill, we just go back, we copy the formula from above, we replace the E by the F. But again, now we have only the cost, but we want the profit. So we take the revenue and we deduct the cost from it. So this then gives us the profit. And again, we just calculate the margin to see what the gross margin was looking like. And here, of course, what you can see is that apparently in the current year, January from November, the margin was much smaller, 33%. So the store is apparently down. And now we just calculate the percentage change from 2015 to 2019. So for this 5-year period. So this is just basic calculation of a percentage change. So the one value over the other -1. We change the format to percentage figures. And then this is what you get. Again, basic high school math. Hope you can follow along. And again, what you see here, this store has a little growth. The others are down. The others are down. So you see apparently tough times in retail at the moment, right? So this is what it is. Okay, so what we are left here is now the trend line. And for this, I use the spark line functionality of Excel. So what you can do is it just directly gives you this little chart here, right? So you need to just highlight the values from which you want to generate the spark lines. Then you click, once you've done this, on Insert. Then you click on Spark Lines. Again, you can't see it, but just click on Spark Lines. And then you click on Lines. And then he asks you, okay, where do you want to let this spark line diagram to be shown, right? So where do you want this to appear? And then you just click in the field where this is supposed to appear. So this is now the trend field. Then you press OK. And then it directly gives you the spark line. So super easy, super straightforward. But I guess this is a little touch. And now you can just copy it down, and then it directly shifts the rows down to the rows where you want to apply this to. And you see this is correct, right? In October there was a spike, and then there was quite a crash in November. This is exactly what you see here in this diagram as well. Looks good to me. Again, let's compare to the reference sheet. So looks pretty similar, I'd say. Let's compare the values for New York. As you see, these are the exact same values that we have on this reference sheet as well. So again, looks good and looks correct to me. Let's not toggle down around a bit here in our version as well. Looks all good. And again, so my point is now, this of course is a rather basic version. But if you can build things like this, this will put you ahead of 95% of people that work in corporate firms. Trust me, guys. This is something that 95% of people in even blue chip companies cannot do. And this, of course, was a basic example of a dashboard. So this was pretty straightforward, pretty basic. But now with this, you can easily expand it. And with this technique, I built much more complex dashboards, right? That I just cannot show you now just for the sake of the time. But pretty much dashboards where then you can also include information on your employees that work in the stores, maybe more complex data on the different categories that are being sold, merchandise categories that are being sold, how this now compares to the previous year. You can then also include little charts just with the basic Excel chart functions. So this is super versatile, and this can really create very powerful dashboards. And I've really seen clients very often be super impressed, even clients working in managerial accounting and controlling departments, by how quick and how straightforward you can build these dashboards. And then, of course, updating them can be super easy as well. You just copy in the new monthly report once the new month has finished. Then maybe you just need to do little adjustments on the month columns. And as you've seen, because the month is directly linked into the table, just if you put a new name of a new month in the overview, right, in the front end, then directly it automatically pulls all the right numbers automatically. So this is really just a great way to set this up, and this is something I can really recommend you to do. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you want to download the sheet, there's a link in the video description where you can download for free this very dashboard that we now created together here today. And if you have any questions, as always, just leave me a comment below in the comment section. I will answer every single comment that you write. And as you know, if you write a comment, it also helps me because lots of comments look good to the YouTube systems. If you took any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my content. If you want to see even more from me, follow me on my Instagram. My handle is Firm Learning. And you can also reach out on LinkedIn. Again, link to the LinkedIn in the video description. And I want to say thank you again to DataCamp for sponsoring this video. If you're interested to try out DataCamp yourself, feel free to check out the link to them. I already took several courses on DataCamp myself, and I can tell you that the courses are high quality. And I also want to say thank you to all the members of the channel. Thank you so much for your contributions. You're really making a difference for my work. And if you are interested to become a member as well, Excel, hit the join button next to the subscribe button to learn about all the perks that you will get if you decide to become a member. So if you watched until the very end now, let me know in the comments that you did, and thank you for doing that. I release weekly videos every single Saturday. So looking forward to next week's video with you guys. Until then, good weekend to all of you. This is Heinrich from Fern Learning. Bye bye.